welcome to Nelson All Over Cards. I was sitting here messing around, building decks for a two-handed playthrough, and lo and behold, we got a new Marvel Champions article. And this is one of those kind of, I'm gonna call them mini articles where we're talking about different scenarios coming out in the Age of Apocalypse box. And today we got one of those. Today we're taking a look at the second encounter in the box, the Four Horsemen, along with some new mod sets. This is going to be a video talking about it. Initially, I didn't think I was going to be making videos on these smaller announcements, but this article was honestly way too exciting not to. This is a multi-villain scenario in the box and will be the second scenario after Eunice. It pits you against 4 villains at once: war, famine, pestilence, and death. From my last video, we were discussing how challenging this matchup looks, and today, I still think that that is true. Let's dive into the scenario. The 4 villains, and similar to other multi-villain scenarios, there is going to be an active villain that changes after a villain activates. What I find interesting here, it is not after the active villain activates, it's after a villain activates. So now we have cards like Horseman of War, which was shown to us today, which heals 2 damage from War, gives War a tough status card, and then he activates. First, ouch, that's not great. That's a tough encounter card. Second, that will move the activation counter, because after War activates, the activation counter moves, and each one of these horsemen have a negative impact whenever they activate, assuming that they have at least 1 hit point left. Ugh. Yikes. So like War, let's stick with War here. After War attacks, and if he has at least 1 hit points, you have to discard an upgrade or a support you control. Therefore, you could get double doinked with Horseman of War. You could activate War using that treachery and then have the active counter move to War, where he could then activate again. You could just be absolutely dunked on and just lose all of your upgrades or supports, which means that you probably want to be reducing him to 0 fairly quickly, because again, this only happens if they have 1 hit point remaining. But the rest of them aren't much better, so let's run through them real quick. Famine has you discard the top 10 cards of your deck whenever they activate. Pestilence is Hulk's best friend here, and treats your text box as if it were blank until the next villain phase, and then Death deals damage to each character you control after Death activates. These are the side A of the villains, which are probably just used for standard play, if we're thinking about the models that have been used before. And then side B, which we haven't seen yet, is for expert play. Now, I'm not sure what side B is going to change here. My guess is that we're going to see higher stats and health, along with maybe a worse forced response. Are you going to have to discard the highest cost upgrade or support and not get to choose? Are you going to have to do it even if they have hit points remaining? I don't know. I'm a little scared of this scenario. It does look a little tough. A lot of this is what we've already kind of discussed in the initial Age of Apocalypse article. If you have not seen that video, I'm linking it right here. But one of the new things announced today is that each of the horsemen have a signature side scheme that ties into what their villain does. For example, War's being the Ravages of War. It comes in with 6 threats and a hazard, and it states that when defeated, the player who defeated the scheme discards an upgrade or support they control. This is super tough and probably not worth leaving out. That extra encounter card can really kick you in the teeth, especially with some of the cards that we've already seen in this encounter deck. And so losing that upgrade or support is probably going to be better than revealing more encounter cards almost all the time, but especially with this encounter set, because I don't even want to remember Rough Riders. Oof. Ouch. Famine's is a little bit better. It's still sitting at 6 threat, but only has an acceleration icon. And it states that whenever you defeat this, the player who defeated this discards the top 10 cards of your deck. This does push you to another encounter card quicker, but it's also like way less encounter cards than just the the War one, where it just gives you another encounter card. And I may just be able to time this until I have like 1 to 3 encounter cards, because once you deck out, you've considered fulfilling that punishment or that effect, and so you can just kind of wait around. And with the acceleration, that may not even be something that I even look to target to take out. Next up is Plague and Pestilence, which, you guessed it, 6 threat and a crisis icon. The player who defeated this treats their text box as if it were blank except for traits. This does have to go. I mean, a crisis icon out there is probably going to stop the game for most heroes, and therefore we have to clear it. What is strange is that if you're able to clear this right before the villain phase, it says you treat the text box as if blank until the next villain phase. So if the last thing you do is a basic thwart to clear this, you aren't really negatively impacted. So I'm not 100% sure why I wouldn't just wait, but who knows. Maybe I also am really nervous that we're going to start to see some cards that interact if those side schemes are out. Yeah. And that may be why we want to clear it even sooner. Finally, the Spectre of Death is a 6 threat with an Amplify icon. States when defeated, the player deals 1 damage to each character they control. It's going to be really tough for allies. Death, you have to kill off early because it's going to just clear allies. But War is also going to take your upgrades and supports. Each side of this encounter seems to be attacking you and trying to not let you build. And it's going to be tough. In today's article, we were also reminded of some of the brutal attachments that are coming our way, like Golden Horse or Metal Wings, which buff up their stats and make it considered that they have 1 HP, which keeps their force responses alive. The one way that we have seen to tech against some of these villain forced responses is to reduce their health to 0. But like Golden Horse or Metal Wings states that they are considered to have 1 HP for that forced response. And so we have to get rid of them. This scenario looks incredibly tough. The more we see of this box, the more I'm understanding that is not going to be an easy walk in the park. Apocalypse is coming for us, and these horsemen seem intent on destroying us at all cost. We also got 2 new mod sets shown to us today. The first one we're going to talk about is the 7-card set called the Hounds. This mod set looks really awesome. I like this one a lot. First thing I want to talk about is the Hounds minions, and I think we're going to get plenty of these. It does say that there are several of them. They are 1/2/2 minions with guard, but the when revealed text on these minions is super interesting. It states that if you're in hero form, the Hound attacks you, effectively quick strike, or if you are not in hero form, you have to change to hero form. This can really mess up some of our strategies if we're going to be activating all of our awesome alter ego stuff on our turn, and now we have to flip up, and maybe we wanted to be in hero phase, but now we need to flip back down to it just throws wrenches in the plans of the heroes, which is pretty cool, especially for a minion that is not going to be too challenging to take out. The Hounds are going to be coming at us fast, especially with Release the Hounds. This is a side scheme that states when defeated, the player defeated this scheme goes and deals a hound to themselves. You can set up and get ready for this, so if you are going to be taking out that side scheme, you know you can maybe flip down, avoiding the quick strike, or like maybe save a answer for that attack if you have to. So it is nice that you see it coming, right? You're dealing to you as a face down encounter card, so it's not an immediate impact, an immediate hit to your face. So that is nice. And let's talk about all the side schemes. The 5 side schemes that we've talked about are not player scaling. They all impact the player who defeats them, which I think is interesting, but they're not scaling. It's 6 or 5 threat, no hinder, no scaling. So that's kind of interesting. They all have 3 boost icons, which is potentially going to really hurt, especially if a villain has a copy of Ahab's Energy Spear, which gives the attached enemy +2 attack, overkill, and piercing. At least this one does not stay around as long as fanaticism, but it's still super scary. Feels like protection is going to be a good counter to this, because you can't chump block, you can't run it with a tough, and so like kind of the strategy around fanaticism is you chump block with your hero having a tough status card, so the overkill runs into the tough and you don't pierce that tough away. Then you have to do that twice, which is really tough. This one does go away after the attached enemy activates, but we're gonna have to get kind of creative on how to manage that, because this coming out on a villain can be game ending. It really can, and you're gonna have to play around with that. But who is Ahab? This is Ahab's Spear. I thought you would never ask who Ahab is, but this is the big minion in the set. A 2, 3, 5 stat line with toughness. Minions are getting big, and I love it. I love it. It's so great. Also, when you reveal Ahab, you have to place 3 threat on Release the Hounds, or If it's not in play, you have to go find it and reveal it, which would then surge because the first copy of Release the Hounds surges. So this is looking like a +2 encounter card. You get the minion, you get Release the Hounds, and then you get a surge. Now, that being said, I'm not sure why I would ever thwart Release the Hounds. I think I would kind of want it to stay out forever. It has no ongoing impact to the game. It only surges when it comes in, and then a bad thing happens when I thwart it down. The only thing that I can think about is that if there is something that deals with how much threat, like we've seen with Gene Pool, or like deals with having the Hound, Release the Hounds out on the table, that's when we would have to deal with it. But I don't think we've seen anything that makes me want to thwart this down, but who knows. This is the direct counter to the problem-solving deck that I set out this morning, where you must remove threat from every scheme. This is directly countering the deck I built. That's probably what it is, I think. The last piece of info we got today was another 6-card mod set called Dystopian Nightmare. This does not seem as bad as some of the rest of what was in the article, but then again, is not nice. Like, we have the new obligation called Hunted, which adds a hazard icon and requires your alter ego to discard a card from your hand to get rid of it. Or like War Weary, that stuns your hero, or if you are already stunned, you have to take 2 damage. What's tough here is that the boost effect is the same thing. So it has a boost icon, and it stuns or deals damage based on if you were already stunned. Because this boost effect happens immediately, you could be in a situation where you're hoping to soak a attack with a tough status card. If you're stunned, the boost effect will knock that tough, and then the attack will go through as if you did not have that tough. So if we're playing with this mod set, that is something to be looking out for, that toughs are especially in jeopardy if you are already stunned. The last card I played with earlier today is called Targeted for Targeted for Extermination. This side scheme also does not scale with players, but thankfully only has 2 boost icons and has a crisis. The player who defeats this scheme confuses their identity. This is a really cool multiplayer card because Justice is usually the one who wants to be clearing side schemes, and then this hurts your future potential to do so, because whenever you clear it, you confuse the identity. So maybe you can ask your aggression player to thwart 1 time this game, maybe? Hopefully. This mod set feels like it's going to be a good one to include if you're looking to see the flexibility of a hero or deck build. There's a lot of different aspects of the game that is being messed with here, and that's pretty exciting, right? We got alter ego discarding cards, we've got confused, we've got stun. It just feels almost like a souped up bomb scare, where it could be, you know, that next step up for another mod set that is going to kind of show a lot of the game. It does sound like we're going to be getting more articles soon. I am really enjoying these, and the next one sounds like it's going to be talking all about Apocalypse, which I am super interested in learning more about. But until then, what do you think about these intense matchups coming our way? I'm going to go film some two-handed games, but let me know in the comments because I want to talk to you all about them. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. Peace.